He kissed my mother's forehead at the funeral and asked for the keys. Not to the house, we all knew better than that, but to the ledgers. In our family, grief and bookkeeping shared a border. My father had kept the books of Karim and Sons with a fountain pen and a prayer, balancing debts like porcelain teacups. Now the pen was capped, the prayer unfinished, and my uncle, suave in black and smelling of a tar and cigarette smoke, wanted numbers. I kept my hand in my pocket and closed it around the iron key until its teeth bit my palm. "I'll bring them by this evening," I said. Uncle Farid smiled. It was the same smile he wore at weddings and seizures of property, the same smile that had flown my cousin to Dubai and flown my father into the ground. Family comes first, Layla. We keep each other safe. Safe. I watched the mourners file out, their eyes sliding to the corner table, where a silver bowl sat glutted with condolence envelopes, sealed with paste and pity. Family came first when there were envelopes. When there were ledgers, it seemed family came with an invoice. Our house sat on the river like a boat ground into permanence, ribs of wood swelling each monsoon, the rafters furred with dust and old stories. My grandmother's portrait watched over the hallway with the tolerant patience of the long deceased. "We do not quarrel in front of the servants," she used to say, or the neighbors, or each other. In our family, silence was an heirloom. When the neighbors left and the dishes clattered in the kitchen, I took the ledgers from the false bottom of my father's old sea trunk. They were heavier than I remembered, as if paper could accrue the weight of years, and they exhaled chalk and ink when I opened them. For hours I read, and the ink became a tide pulling me out. Promissory notes signed in my father's rounded hand, interest accrued on loans that shouldn't have been taken, a roll call of creditors with names like insects, and threaded through it all a series of payments, regular, precise, blood from a vein, made to a shell company named Rahi Holdings. "Do you know what this is?" I asked my mother. She sat on the floor peeling cardamom pods, the hulls snapping with a sound like old secrets breaking. Her black bangles had never left her wrist, not even to sleep. "Your father did what he felt he had to. Leave the dead their dignity. This isn't dignity. It's theft." I tapped the page with a fingernail that shook despite me. "Who is Rahi?" "A name," she said, as if that ended it. "Stop digging." But I couldn't. Grief is a shovel when it should be a blanket. The first time I met my cousin Arman after the funeral, he had a new watch and a haircut that tried too hard to be careless. We sat beneath the neem tree drinking tea so strong it left grit on the tongue. He laughed too loudly and kept checking his phone. "Condolences, Layla," he said, and then lower. "Quick, you should be careful around my father. Your father wants the ledgers." He bit his lip, the gleam of the watch catching sunlight as if it could siphon it. "He wants everything. We'll see what he gets." He leaned forward, the playfulness falling away. "Do you have a plan?" "Yes." I lied like one of the aunts, smooth as a bead between fingers. "I'll bring the ledgers by tonight. You won't leave there with them again, I know." We sipped in silence. I remembered how we had raced in this courtyard as children, skinning knees on the same bricks, our laughter vaulting over the walls. Tradition can be a bond. It can also be a chain. Here is a thing I learned about revenge. At first, it warms like a stove on a cold morning. You draw your hands near and think you will live there. Then you begin to notice how it consumes fuel, how it needs tending, how easy it is when your back is turned for it to set the curtains alight. That evening, I carried the ledgers in a cloth bag to my uncle's office, the new one, with air conditioning and glass that forbade dust to settle. The receptionist offered me coffee I didn't drink. Farid kept me waiting long enough to establish hierarchy. When he ushered me in, his office smelled like cedar and something expensive I couldn't name. On the wall, a framed photograph of him and my father at the opening of our second warehouse. My father's smile in that picture was shy at the edges, as if unsure he deserved the moment. "You look tired," Farid said. "You look rich," I said, and placed the bag on the table. He chuckled, drawing the ledgers out one by one, the way a magician drags scarves from a sleeve. "You mean successful? Let's call it what it is." He placed a fingertip on the page naming Rahi Holdings and met my eyes with almost fatherly pity. "You shouldn't have brought this." "Why?" "Because if I know what you did, you'll have to do something worse." "No." He slid the ledger toward me again as if selling me back my own anger. "Because you don't know what your father did." In the hall, the air conditioning murmured like a sleeping snake. "Tell me," I said. "Rahi, He savored the name. Your father began it. He made the first transfer himself. I had prepared for many blows. Not this one. You forged his signature. God preserve us, Layla. Have you never read your father's myths of himself? The man who never lied, never cheated, never played the game. He played. He created Rahi to move money off the books. For whom? For you. He said it gently, like a doctor breaking news. For your brother. For your mother's medicines. For keeping the house when the banks would have taken it. For paying employees when the buyers vanished after promising contracts. He moved pieces to preserve the board. By stealing from his own company? By starving it? By keeping it alive through famine? He leaned back. Do you know how many bales we saved because of those transfers? How many mouths fed? Your father believed in family the way he believed in God, blindly. He thought he could hide money from the creditors and then put it back when times turned. But times grew teeth, and you helped them bite. I was the one who went to the creditors, he said softly. I took their rage and told them to wait. I signed my name on papers your father should have signed. He kept his soul in the sky. I kept the roof from leaking. I left with the ledgers and a seed of doubt that sprouted like mold. I went to the old warehouse alone, as if I could find my father's ghost in its dust. The warehouse breathed when trucks passed, boards creaking with the old habit of movement. I climbed the rickety stairs to the office, where my father had kept a transistor radio playing dawn recitations. Below me, men lifted bales, their shouts familiar as my own name. In the bottom drawer of the desk, beneath a coil of twine and a rusty stapler, I found a small black notebook. Not the public ledgers, no. This was handwriting for one pair of eyes only. In it, in his careful script, were entries not of money but of dates and names. The first entry, Rahi R for Rahima, A for Arman, H for Hassan, I for Ibrahim, our initials. The family alphabet. I pressed my forehead to the desk. We name our sins after our children and call it love. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell anyone. I did what the living do after funerals. I learned to file a stack of papers as high as myself. I learned which clerk to bribe with sweet tea and which with flattery. I learned to smile at men who thought my father had made a mistake by raising a daughter instead of a chief accountant. I moved into his chair as if it might forgive me, and I watched. For 2 months I followed the flow of money through Kareem and Sons like a stream through reeds. I learned the way Farid's signature rose on the page when he was lying, the way Arman's did when he was scared. I learned the rhythm of deliveries, the language of shortages, the real weight of loyalty. It weighs exactly as much as whatever you are hiding. I hired a friend, we call people friends when we don't want to name them as mercenaries, to trace Rahi holdings. He returned a week later with a folder, the staples frowning. Rahi doesn't own what it says, he said. It owns debts that own debts, but follow it long enough and it leads to a company in my city. That company has 2 directors, your uncle and your mother, I laughed. Then I sat down because the room spun. Are you sure? As sure as anyone can be before someone turns out to be cleverer. My mother, her black bangles glinting. Leave the dead their dignity, she had said. But the living, what did they get? Confrontations are not like they are in the movies. There is no inverted thunderclap, no dramatic wineglass shatter. There is tea and a soft chair. There are pictures on the wall of people who look a little like you, and also not at all like you. There is the awareness that if you set the room on fire, you will lose the only photographs that prove you were ever a child in someone's lap. Why? I asked my mother. Because you were not safe, she said simply. Safe from what? Everyone. She took my hand, turned it palm up, pressed a callus with her thumb as if reading a prophecy. When I married your father, his mother gave me a set of keys. Keys are for those who worry, she said. If you love the house, you must also fear it. I feared this house. I feared what would happen to you and Hassan if the banks came. Your father thought honesty and faith were a bridge over all rivers. I learned the water. You made Rahi with Farid. I made Rahi with the notary, she said dryly. Your uncle joined later when it suited him. At first we moved small amounts to keep us from drowning. Then little by little my fear grew and so did the numbers. The day the buyer defaulted and we couldn't pay wages, I went to Farid. I told him he could call me by any name he wished, thief, harpy, snake, but he must help me. He did, not for free. The room seemed full of things I had not seen because they were ordinary. The tapestry with a pulled thread, the motionless stand fan, the dust thickening above door frames like loneliness, You should have told me. When? She asked. When you were 8? When you learned your first interest rate. When you fell in love with the idea of balancing accounts as if that could balance the world. You made me complicit. I made you alive, she said, then softer. And now we must live with it. Live with it how? By allowing Farid to siphon us indefinitely? By letting Arman watch me drown from his new watchtower? Revenge flared again, faithful as sunrise needing fuel. I had thought I wanted to bring Farid down to protect my father's name. Now I wanted to do it to protect my mother's. The difference mattered less than I wanted it to. The plan grew in slow circles, like henna darkening. I collected photocopies of deeds, bank statements, receipts smudged with thumbprints, the bureaucratic detritus of a family's life. I learned who at the press owed my father favors and who owed my mother her life. I built a story that would turn public. Farid's siphoning, Rahi's paper threats, his award last winter for ethical leadership, the way he had starved workers the week his son bought a car with seats that remembered your spine. But we are not only what we can prove. We are also the turns of the knife we cannot. Before I could deliver the file to the paper, Arman came to the house at night and knocked on my window like a boy come to apologize for breaking a vase. He's planning to move everything, he whispered. Where? To your name. My what? If the authorities look, he said, he wants them to stop at you. He thinks you won't burn the house down if you're inside. He handed me a USB drive and something hard and small. It was my grandmother's house key, the iron worn smooth by decades of use. Why are you doing this? I asked. He didn't smile. Because I have a younger sister who believes in us. Because I watched you try to save the same men who whistle at you from the loading dock. Because I'm tired of pretending the new watch keeps time better. Because I am a coward every day and I would like one day not to be. He turned to go. Tell my father I did this, he added. He will teach me what it costs to be decent. I caught his wrist. No, I said. Let him learn what it costs to be careless. At the factory, dawn smelled like burlap and hope. I stood with the workers as they stretched their backs and rolled their shoulders and told jokes about aches. The foreman, a man with hands like nets, nodded at me. He had never liked me. I had never asked him to. Some of you will hate me before breakfast, I said into the bullhorn that had announced births and strikes, but you should hate me for the right reasons. I laid out the story, our story, and it moved through the crowd in gusts, their faces creasing and flattening and breaking open again. When I finished, a younger man shouted, "So we were right to suspect you." "No," I said, and raised my voice until it wore through my throat. "You were right that someone thought you were dispensable. But you were wrong about who. And if we are to survive this, you will have to hate me less than you hate the idea that we cannot survive without men like my uncle." Then I walked into the office and called the paper. The headline the next day cut like a kind knife. Family firm. Family fraud, the house that debt built. There was a photo of my father, eyes downcast, and of Farid, hand raised against a lens as if he could block truth with flesh. There was my mother, only in the shadows because I owed her that much. There were calls. There were police. There were more questions than the sky had room to absorb. Farid arrived at the house with 3 men I didn't recognize, and the fixed smile of a man who still believes in his own invincibility. "You forget who taught you to walk on a knife," he said, "and you forget who taught me that the knife cuts both ways. You set the house on fire." I opened a window. He shook his head, pitying me again because pity was his last vestige of power. "You don't understand, Layla. If I go down, I won't go alone." "I know," I said. "I built the lifeboats first. I had transferred our workers' wages to a protected account, signed over our small remaining stock to a cooperative, put the house temporarily under the name of a trust that would make even hunger think twice. I did more in 2 weeks than my father had dared in 2 years. It felt like betrayal and survival braided together until you could not tell one from the other. Perhaps that is what family is." Farid left with his men. He turned, almost amiable, at the gate. "So you'll come to me," he said, like a promise and a curse. "You'll come when the city refuses your permits. You'll come when the taxes bleed you. You'll come when it is cold." "Perhaps," I said. I shut the gate. I leaned my forehead against its wood. My hands shook in rhythm with my heart. One beat called loyalty, the next forgiveness, the next consequence. The climax did not announce itself. It was not a fire or a flood. It was a night when the power went out and the room was lit by the amber of candles. And my mother said, "We cannot run forever," and I said, "We can stand." We stood in the courtyard and watched the dark shift. A figure came down the alley. Slip of a boy, grown tall somehow while I had been busy counting. My brother Hassan. He had left 2 years before with a bag of tools and pride, and had sent letters that said everything was fine until they said nothing at all. He ducked his head in at the gate, the same nervous habit he had as a boy, as if the house might refuse him. I ran to him. I held him and smelled machine oil and city rain. He said into my hair, "I am sorry." For leaving? I asked. For not being brave enough to stay, he said. For not being brave enough to go further. He had been working at a garage on the edge of the city. He had sent money home through Rahi because a man told him a shell company would hide it from thieves. The man's name had been Farid. In the candlelight, Hassan's face looked like my father's had when he was disappointed in himself. "What should I do?" he asked. "You should forgive yourself," my mother said in the softest voice I had ever heard from her, "so that we can forgive ourselves for the parts we played." Maybe that was the twist the story had been preparing. Not the revelation of who had betrayed us. We all had in small, survivable ways, but the realization that vengeance had been all along. A language we used because we did not have a word for grief that could also contain love. In the weeks that followed, the courts did what courts do, slowly, sometimes blindly, occasionally landing like the palm of a patient father. Farid was charged. He pled to less than he had done, because that is the way of power, and went away long enough for his absence to teach him nothing and us everything. Arman left the city and sent, months later, a photograph of a small repair shop with a bright blue door and a hand-lettered sign, Rahi Repairs. "The better use of our initials," his note said. "Tell your mother I'll keep the receipts honest." We restructured the company. We sold things we had thought we would die to keep. We kept things we had once been willing to sell. Our patience, our prayers, our stubbornness. We joined with the workers and wrote rules that could be understood without a lawyer. We painted the warehouse, filled its rooms with air that smelled less like regret. The new ledgers were thin and clean. They did not hum with secrets. They did not require a key. People asked me, sometimes with admiration and sometimes with accusation, whether I was glad I had taken revenge. I told them the truth I could manage, that revenge feels like drinking salt water. At first it is wet, and then it is thirst, and then it is the sea swallowing you. What saved me was not the swallowing of my enemy, but the spitting out of the story that had kept me obedient. I had wanted blood. I learned to want oxygen. On the anniversary of my father's death, I went alone to the warehouse office and opened the window. The morning air came in cool, smelling of river and cardamom from a tea seller's brass kettle. I placed my palm on the desk, where he had written the initials that once meant safety and now meant history. I forgave him, and I forgave myself for the times I'd mistaken burning for light. When I returned home, my mother was sitting under the neem tree with her bangles stacked and her spine straight, watching the servant's son chase a ball that kept rolling just beyond his reach. She smiled when she saw me, the tired joy of a woman who has taken off a too tight shoe. "Did you bring the keys?" she asked. I opened my hand. The iron teeth left no marks anymore. "I don't think we need them," I said. She nodded. The boy caught the ball at last and held it up like the moon. Somewhere in the city, my uncle learned what it meant to be without a door to walk through. Somewhere in the country, my cousin turned a rusted bolt and tightened it until the machine stopped shaking. In our house, the fan ticked, and the day held. This was the cost. A father, not a saint, an uncle, not a monster, but a hungry, ordinary man. A mother who had learned the water to keep us from drowning. A daughter who learned the shore is not a place, but a decision. This was the family tie, frayed and mended, imperfect and stronger where it had broken. And this was the lesson I hoped to keep as an inheritance, that the only revenge that endures is building something honest where a lie once lived. Every secret comes with a price, and every revenge leaves a scar. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. Your support helps us bring more stories that remind us what family and forgiveness truly mean. Until next time, stay strong. And remember, truth always finds its way home.